And then we started to map those based on like key drivers for people, key drivers for the business. And then what is the end-to-end experience across those channels? Can I do everything in each channel? What are the jobs to be done for each of those channels? And how do we make sure that those jobs are done successfully? And then we start to put timelines on it. So we know, at least at my company, that the product roadmap is what we go by. But we've also started to build an experience roadmap. So what do we think are important for the customer? Now, at some point, we come together. Most of the time, we have conversations before we go off and do these things so that they're generally aligned. But we come back together and we discuss it and we say, hey, this roadmap, when we set it 2 months ago, you were thinking about this problem and you set aside a quarter to do this work. But from what we're learning, what we're hearing, we actually think that this is a bigger opportunity to provide value. How do we actually move this ahead? How do we get this going? And it's just discussion. When I came here, I had a meeting. It was the Design Steer Co. And it was every once a month-ish, maybe every other week, where design would have this seat and talk to some of the things that were important, some of the opportunities we're going after. When I came in, we modified the Design Steer Co. The first one that I did was I walked our executive team through our current experience. And sometimes people don't go through the front door, right? There's that old story of, I walked into this restaurant, one of the lights were out. I mentioned it to the owner. And he's like, oh, I would have never known. I always go in through the back door. I don't see it in the front. It's good to get that alignment of where we're at. And then it starts to have that conversation of what people think are top of mind to, oh, we've got to solve this. We've got to solve this. So just having that avenue to have that healthy discussion and debate and really like come to an understanding of the problem. That's where research to me is part of the design umbrella. At some point in mature enough companies, research stands alone and becomes another valid input on a biz dev side, on a market research side. But for the sake of this conversation, design and all of the aspects within it, all the disciplines, it's meant for facilitation of these types of conversations and bringing different lenses together so that everyone just sits in that moment of what we know and what we don't know and finds that path forward. And I think the more that we can have those conversations and sessions, the more aligned we are and the better outcomes we have. Because by doing it, by having something to react to, by having some sort of stimuli to talk through, it's very different when you're actually working together than when you have that conversation really quick and then everyone seems aligned. And then when they leave, everyone goes back to doing separate things. So it's our way of just bringing that together.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me a bit more about that experience roadmap. What's in it? How do you make it?
Yeah, so we just did our first one. So it's an experiment. We thought about all of the different channels that we have. So our native mobile web, where we can see AI as a possibility in our desktop experience. And then we thought through all the different features that we have and where the most gaps are in watching people use our product, or what are some new things that we want to offer based on where we're seeing pain points or the industry going. And we put together, if I'm on native mobile, these are the things that we have to have. Do we even have some of the table stakes everywhere? And if we don't, okay, we need to do them. And then we started to map those based on like key drivers for people, key drivers for the business. And then what is the end-to-end experience across those channels? Can I do everything in each channel? Or does MWeb only take you so far because of the resources that we have? And then it has to drive you to either the desktop experience or the native experience. And then one takes you as far as it makes sense to because of what you need to do. And so what are the jobs to be done for each of those channels? And how do we make sure that those jobs are done successfully? And then we start to put timelines on it. We look at the product roadmap and say, okay, we're working on this for Q2 or Q3, but does that make sense? Does this other thing that we uncovered on a quick deep dive on a strategy or a problem, can we move that up forward and push something else out? Now, those decisions are part of the product roadmap, so we can try to influence them and show that there's different value that we can bring forward faster. So we had our first conversation and it turned into a great conversation. There's still a bunch of unknowns. Another smaller group of people got in a room at the end later in the day that day to work on at least one of those channels. And now there's another meeting tomorrow. So it's been highly productive. It's a new lens that we're trying to figure out in hopes that at one point, when we actually do our road planning that we just come with all the different perspectives. But sometimes things are already set in motion and you got to find ways to influence them and optimize them and modify them for the better as you go.
So it sounds like a great complement to a product roadmap, because the product roadmap, in theory, is about the product, right? But it takes people to use that product.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it also sounds like you're mapping, you're prioritizing and looking at the resources available to determine where things lie on that experience roadmap.
And we're trying to prioritize by value to the customer, but we also understand certain things are in flight that, like, if we have a project that doesn't seem as valuable, but it's maybe back-end tech important, so that customers may not see it, but they'll feel that difference, and it's already 3/4 of the way done, we're not going to stop that because we think, oh, maybe if we make the login screen a little bit easier, it'll be better. No, let's make sure the back-end is able to be capable and built upon and be able to iterate on, and then we will figure out. It might not be the sign-up form that needs to be fixed. It might be the verification flow that needs to be fixed. And how do we pull that more forward? And yes, if we want customers to get more value from our product, we want them to be high intent and verify faster, not all the way at the end where I've done what I need to do. I've seen it. Now I don't need to verify this. So it's all about the intent of the customer at the time or the user at the time.
So it sounds like you might be providing a roadmap for the ideal experience, but it's a catalyst for conversations to understand, oh, we could actually bump this up because it's almost done and technically feasible and things like that. Is that fair?
Exactly. 100%.
Check out all my interviews with industry leaders on BlatzChatz.